Birds are extremely important to me, and I love showcasing birds on this platform. All right, so here's the deal. It is freezing again, and of course it is. It's the middle of January, but not only is it freezing, it is gusting wind outside today. So I don't know how successful we're gonna be in this hunt, but I'm sitting at 349 live birds. One more would get me to 350, and I would love to hit that milestone. There's only one option that I have. In a 30-mile radius, there's only one bird that I don't have on my life list that's been reported, and that's the white-throated sparrow. It's in the middle of a neighborhood. I hate filming in neighborhoods, so if the shot's going to be looking like I'm peeking into someone's house, I'm not gonna take it. But we're gonna go try it and get this lifer. If not, we're gonna be car birding today, looking at all the weird ducks and stuff that might be out there. We might head over to Hiram Reservoir just to check it out, see if there's anything in close. Stick with me, it's gonna be a crazy day. All right, so I got to the spot where the white-throated sparrow was reported. I'm at the yard right now, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it doesn't look like the sort of house I wanna be hanging around at. There's certain signs and stuff and a lot of private property chains all over the place. Beyond that, I don't see any bird action whatsoever. Essentially what I'm gonna do is try to go find a lifer on my own. Now this is probably gonna be near impossible because of the weather today, the crazy winds and how cold it is, but we're gonna hit up a few spots, see what birds we can find. Who knows, there could be a loon out there, Pacific loon that I don't have on my list. We'll hit up a few places that's possible for. And yeah, we'll hope to get my 350th lifer. We're gonna keep trying, obviously, for the next couple weeks to get that bird because that would be awesome. I did kind of clean up the birds that were easy to get in my last adventure, if you saw that one, but let's see what birds we can find. The goal of probably getting my 350th lifer is out the window, unless there's something crazy here at First Dam. Again, the wind is insane. But I am 3 birds away from getting 100 species in January. I think last year I ended maybe in the 80s or something like that. But to get 100 in the first month of the year would be absolutely incredible. There was a cackling goose reported here this morning, and we've done this before. I've chased cackling geese at this very pond like 20 plus times at this point and not gotten one. So I'm gonna go out there, see if we can find that cackling goose. If not, let's see what other birds are cool in the area, and then we'll hit a few more spots and see what's out there. That was miserable. Honestly, that might have been the most miserable birding experience I've ever had. It says it's 27 degrees outside, but it feels like 6. I know some of you that are subarctic and way further north are probably laughing about that, but the wind is insane. I did pick up some pretty cool birds, as you saw. We finally found the Canada geese, but they were all hunkered underneath the overpass over here because they're smart. They're smart. That's probably the best place to be, best shelter from the wind. This little lake out here is just getting whipped around. It's not a great day for birding at all. I wasn't planning on making this video today, but my friend Shayna Cosette at Shayna Cosette Birding recently put out a video about her spark bird and her story getting into birding. So let's head back to the house and I want to tell you my story about getting into birding. Stick around because there's going to be photos of little Jordan and everything, my full background on birding. All right, so now we're back inside. The wind is still crazy. It's actually shaking my second story apartment right now. Not the best conditions for birding, but pretty good conditions for story time. So I wanted to share my story on how I got into birding. And this has a lot to do with a spark bird. Now, if you didn't know, a spark bird is like a gateway into birding. It's that bird that you see and you say, oh my goodness, what is that? That gets you hooked onto the hobby. For many people, that's an owl, a hawk, an eagle, something big like a great blue heron or an American white pelican. For me, it was none of those things. Let's start all the way back at the beginning. As a kid, I was always into nature. I remember my mom got me those old, they were like National Geographic, binder inserts, and they folded open and they had all these infographics, and they were all these different types of
mammals and reptiles, and I don't remember having any birds specifically of those things, but those things absolutely got me into nature for sure. And then aside from that, my grandma used to feed hummingbirds growing up, and I always loved watching the hummingbirds come to the feeder. And she always had a special interest in birds as well. She loves the northern cardinal, so she had a lot of northern cardinal stuff around the house growing up. And I love my grandma, and I love talking about birds. I remember I used to go to the zoo, and I'd get so excited to see the red panda whenever there was one available to see, because that was my favorite animal of all time, still is to this day. Just this bright red raccoon looking creature. It looks nothing like a panda, but looks incredible. I loved going and seeing that whenever I possibly could. And then I used to go a lot to, growing up in Utah, we have tons of national parks. And when we'd go visit one of these amazing and incredible places, my parents would allow us kids to get something from the gift shop. And I almost always walked away with a field guide of some sort, something to do with animals. Now this one is the National Audubon Society. It's super beat up. This is my oldest field guide, I'm pretty sure. And it's a guide to the southwestern United States. But as a kid, I used to have this page bookmarked. The most opened part of the book is the book page right here. And the bird that I loved to see the most is right here, the Mountain Bluebird. I was shocked that such colors could be found in nature. Now, mind you, I know that this actually, blue doesn't actually exist. It's a reflection of the feathers. And in reality, these birds are more gray, but that thing looked so fake to me. I just couldn't believe it. I always told myself, one day I'm gonna go find this bird. One day I'm gonna go find the mountain bluebird. And that day came really, really fast. As a family, we went camping constantly. Every summer we went camping for as long as I can remember. And I never got great looks at mountain bluebirds just because I didn't know how to use a pair of binoculars very good. Most kids don't. It's actually really difficult. And even as an adult, it took me a while to get the hang of it, especially when you were looking for something so small as a bird. But when we'd be driving up on these mountains, the mountain bluebirds would fly by, and all you would see is just this flash of blue, flash of blue, flash of blue. And it was an absolutely incredible sight. Even though they were just blue blurs basically flying by, I knew that was my mountain bluebird, and I was gonna go find those mountain bluebirds one day and take pictures of them. And that's what started my obsession with birds. I remember when I was about 10 or 12 or so, I went on this trip to Disney World, and we stayed in these little condos just outside of Orlando. And we walked outside one day, and there were these giant birds. I had no idea what they were at the time, so my parents had cameras, they took pictures, they walked right up to us, they were just walking around the front yard. I thought they looked absolutely incredible. I remember I went home after that trip, asked my mom to print out those pictures, and I glued them in the back of a journal, and I put species unknown. I did not look up what the bird was. I thought that I had made some grand discovery. Turns out those birds were obviously sandhill cranes, but I was so excited to have, a field guide and a book to track my birds. In elementary school, I always told my teachers that I wanted to grow up to be an ornithologist, and every single time my teacher would go, "What's an ornithologist?" And I'd be like, "It's a person who studies birds." I was so excited to be an ornithologist. The problem was, middle school, junior high, high school, birds and animals and nature, that stuff wasn't cool, right? When I was growing up, you would get teased for that sort of thing. And so I pushed that stuff away. I pushed it away and I focused on things that were cool, sports, especially basketball. And quite honestly, I forgot about birds for about 10 years. Fast forward 10 years and I'm now completing my master's degree in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I'm not studying birds, I'm studying sociology, social justice, another thing I'm very passionate about. But that itch to find birds and to log birds and to see birds was still there in the back of my mind. Obviously COVID happened, and that was really, really hard to go through for most people. And I actually wouldn't say I jumped on that COVID train of getting back into birds. I was finishing up my master's degree, and at this point I had a kid, I was married, and just that desire to be outside and to be looking at birds again was immense. I told my family to get in the car and we drove to a wetlands reserve that was about 20 minutes outside of town. I opened up my notes app on my phone and I just started recording. I told myself, I'm going to log every bird I can possibly find. The funny thing about this is at the time I had never seen the big ear. I had suppressed like birds for so long, I just thought it was some quirky thing that I was into. But I took a friend with me one time as well, and he was like, oh, you're birding. And I thought he was joking because I was like, birding, that's sounds so stupid. Like, I'm bird watching. And he's like, no, you're birding. There's a whole app for that. And then I discovered eBird. And after that, I was hooked. I was going as much as I possibly could while trying to finish my master's thesis, while trying to graduate from school, while trying to raise a 1.5-year-old at the time. But it was just so important for me. It was amazing for my mental health, and I had rediscovered my passion of birds again. On the flip side of that, I always enjoyed making videos as well. And those videos were, funny little projects in school with friends, recapping different books and stuff like that for school projects. But I also really liked the idea of content creation, and then it just clicked for me one day and I said, you know what, like I want to be a birding YouTuber. So obviously I went to YouTube and I found people that were doing birding YouTube already, and I said, you know what, this can be done. It's not a huge niche. It's not something that a ton of people watch on the platform, but I think that birds are so important. I want to protect birds. I want to educate people about birds. I've spent so much of my life and my childhood being obsessed with birds out in the open and then behind closed doors. And so it just clicked for me. I'm going to do a birding YouTube channel, BirdTube. And what's so funny about this whole thing is that this all started with the Mountain Bluebird, with that beautiful blue bird in the book, my spark bird. This started with my grandma when I started picking up birds and telling her about these birds. Every time I had a question, she would come back with an answer, and that was so special to me. And it's something that I'm gonna hold on to for the rest of my life. Birds are extremely important to me, and I love showcasing birds on this platform. I get comments from time to time of people saying, you got me into birding, and that is the happiest thing that I can possibly hear, because I firmly believe it's the best hobby in the world. So I just wanna say thank you to all of you for allowing me to fulfill my passion with birds that I've had since I was a kid. Thank you to Shayna Birding, Shayna Cazette, my friend, for creating the Sparkbird Challenge and challenging us YouTubers, us birdtubers, to share our stories and to share our Sparkbird experiences. A link to a playlist will be in the description below that showcases any birdtuber who wants to take on the challenge. I think there's only 2 of us on the playlist at the moment. I know a few are planning on doing it in the future. And if you're a birdtuber out there, you can definitely join in with us. Message us on Instagram to let us know that the project is done, and we'll add you to the playlist as well. Let me know in the comments below, what was your spark bird, or what got you into birding? I would love to hear your stories. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I hope to see you all next time on Broad Eyed Birding.